First, let's talk about the story. This time around, the story follows James Heller, who is a soldier that comes home to find his daughter and wife dead from the disease that killed many civilians in the first game and turned them into creatures that kill things. Heller then decides to go after the person who he thinks is responsible, Alex Mercer, the main character of the first game. He finds and attacks Mercer, but of course Mercer is a superhuman, so that really doesn't work, and he whoops his dumbass quick and turns him into a superhuman. Mercer tells Heller that he gave him these powers for a reason, and he isn't responsible for the viral outbreak, and instead, an organization known as Blackwatch from the first game is responsible. Heller now needs to find out if Mercer is telling the truth or not, and how he can stop Blackwatch. I really enjoyed the story from the first game. I thought the character of Alex Mercer was interesting, and the mystery behind him turning into whatever he was very entertaining. Now, Heller isn't even close to as interesting as Mercer was, but I do like him. You feel bad for him in the beginning, and you start liking him later on for his dumb but funny one-liners. I mean, he just curses up a storm and shouts one-liners. I thought they were funny. I don't know. I like this character. The story itself was a lot of the mystery and conspiracy that the first one had, but it wasn't as captivating. Overall, the story isn't as good, but I still liked it. Let's go on to the sound. Alright, now let's talk about the sound. The voice cast in the game does a good job of voicing each of their characters, even though a lot of the voice actors are used over and over for different characters. Heller's voice actor did a good job, even though a lot of his voice acting, like I said before, is curses and one-liners. There's not much depth to his voice acting. It's just like, I'm angry, I'm going to shout and yell out curse words and say one-liners. Mercer isn't voiced by Barry Pepper this time, but the voice actor who replaced him did a decent job. Sound design does a good job as well. There's a lot of stuff going on almost all the time, and the sound never really skips a beat usually, which I liked. The soundtrack is serviceable, but nothing spectacular. Overall, the sound is good. So let's go on to the graphics. Okay, now the graphics. If there was anything wrong with Prototype 1, it was easily the graphics. Obviously, Radical Entertainment thought so as well because the graphics look so much better in the sequel. Character models are good, and there can be up to 50 to 60 of them on the screen at once, and it never slows down. The cutscenes have this really cool black and white motif, which I really dug. I thought it was really cool. The city itself looks great and even has real-life New York City buildings, which I thought was very cool. The lighting is especially great in the game and gives everything either a shiny or gritty look to it. Also, there is a lot of blood in this game, and when it gets bloody, it gets awesome to look at. I gotta say, there's blood everywhere. Pieces of bodies, limbs freaking flying around. It's awesome to look at. One problem I do have with the graphics is the way you consume and morph into people. It wasn't as detailed as the first game was. In this one, it looks like you just grab someone and they disappear. In the last one, it was more like you rip them in half and freaking fling them around, and then they come into your body and you become them. So overall, the graphics are much better in this game, but I would like more detail in the consuming next time. So anyway, there you go. The graphics are damn good. Let's go on to the gameplay. Now the most important part of any game, the gameplay. Just like the first game, you play as a superhuman wrecking machine that can turn his arms into killing machines. At first you don't have many weapons to kill with, but later on, while you consume more and more people and creatures and whatnot, you will gain different abilities like steel claws, hammer fist, and a razor sharp blade. Most of the gameplay will consist of you killing a lot of things with the melee combat. The combat is actually a lot of fun in this game and is a big improvement over the last games. You can now map two of your weapons on the X and Y buttons besides having to constantly switch between them. You can block attacks with your shield ability or dodge roll out of the way, or you can even jump over an enemy, kind of like how Batman does in Arkham City, and then flank them, which is an awesome new addition. I really liked it. It actually even slows down time when you're jumping over someone, so you can like think, oh, what am I going to use now? Oh, I'll use Steel Fist. Dead. You can perform different types of ground and aerial attacks with each weapon's ability as well. Each of them are gory as hell. The camera is much better as well, which I felt got a little awkward and cumbersome in the first game. Overall, the combat is a lot of fun and not frustrating like the first games, and it doesn't really get repetitive too, because you always have different weapons that are being introduced, and it's a lot of fun. It really is. The game is set in New York City, just like the first one, and it is completely free roam. To help traverse this massive city, you have the ability to run really fast and automatically jump over small obstacles like ledges and cars, jump really high to reach buildings and certain mission objectives, run up buildings just in case it is too high for you to jump up, gliding while you're in the air so you can cover more ground without actually being on the ground, and an air dash which lets you boost through the air and gives you more gliding time. All of these abilities makes traveling around the city a very enjoyable experience all on its own. Besides just jumping around in the city and causing random acts of chaos, you can also tackle one of the many missions in the games. You can either do the story missions, which just progresses the story, or you can do Blacknet side missions, which if are completed will grant you a mutation point, which will allow you to become stronger in a certain aspect, like running, jumping, melee, throwing cars or people, or etc. Most of these missions range from consume this person, become him and enter a building undetected, or collect these creature samples as fast as you can. They get repetitive sometimes, but they change it up enough to not make it completely boring. You can also collect audio logs that are scattered throughout the environment, or kill and consume certain enemies to get these upgrades as well. Now, besides the mutation upgrades, you also have your regular XP leveling system. While you kill more enemies, consume more, and finish more missions, you will gradually gain experience, which will level up Heller and let you decide on what you should upgrade. You can upgrade his health, regeneration abilities, how fast until he disappears from enemy radars, how fast he goes, how high he jumps, and so on. These two ways of upgrading your character really adds to the feeling that I'm actually this character and I am actually really becoming more and more powerful. So just to wrap this review up, let me tell you some other things that you can do in this game, okay? You can drive a tank, you can fly a helicopter, you have the ability to throw stuff like humans and cars, you can use weapons like rifles and rocket launchers, you can use enemies as human bombs, you can summon huge Hulk-like creatures to help you, you can drop kick helicopters. You can drop kick helicopters. Enough said. Overall, Prototype 2 is a game for people that love fun. If you love fun, if you love blood, if you love high jumping, wall running, air gliding, sharp weapons, enemy consuming, then you will have the time of your life with this game. By the way, if you can't tell, I'm one of those people, and I do love this game. Story might not be better than the first, but everything else easily is. Radical Entertainment easily delivered with this iteration, and I hope I see a Prototype 3 in the future. So anyway, there's my review. Thank you and goodbye.